Hey everyone, it's Rototem back again to talk about some Cyberpunk TCG cards. This past podcast, they shot off a brand new card that will make some big waves for the game, no doubt. It's the first piece of ramp introduced to the game, and it's pretty solid. We'll talk about that in just a moment, but before we do, I noticed a few interesting things today on their website while doing some research on the newly updated cards. One of these discoveries I'll be talking about in an upcoming video, but the other I'm going to talk about right now, and it's the sneaky return of After Party at Lizzie's to the site with an updated effect. I haven't seen anybody mentioning it anywhere, although I didn't look particularly hard to see if anyone brought it up, but I figured I haven't talked about it yet, so let's take a look at it first and see how it's been changed. After Party at Lizzie's has had its cost reduced to only 1 eddy now instead of 2. It also now has a 1 yellow RAM requirement. Its ability was altered. Beforehand, you can adjust a rival gig by up to 2. Then, if you had a friendly gig of the same value, you get to draw a card. This new effect allows you to adjust a gig by up to 1, and if you control 2 or more gigs of differing values, you get to draw a card. There are a few important takeaways with this card. The first is that the gig you can alter can only be altered by 1 now, instead of 2. But now you have the benefit of being able to target your own gig dice with this effect, as opposed to only your rivals with the previous one. This allows you to play this card and get a guaranteed draw effect, provided that you have at least 2 gig dice under your control, which is a solid value, and is right in line with the other 1 eddy cost programs that do a thing and then let you draw a card afterwards. It's a good upgrade to this card that felt rather clunky in the alpha, and if it maintained that 2 eddy cost now, it would be pretty bad compared to those programs. Given we now have several cards with a similar effect, we can surmise that the act of drawing 1 card has a basic cost of 1 eddy as the benchmark for the game going forward, and we'll use this metric to analyze the new ramp card in just a moment. We can also use this metric for any card in the future that allows you to draw a card to see if it's truly eddy efficient or not. To sum up the new After Party at Lizzie's, I will say it's in a much better position now that it is only 1 eddy to play as opposed to 2, and it's more in line with Yellow's desire to have gigs of differing values, so it has some synergy with other Yellow cards. Let's take a look now at the brand new card that was revealed and has folks buzzing, as it is one of the tools we've been waiting to see enter the fray, our very first ramp card. For anyone who's unfamiliar with the terminology, a ramp card is one that has the ability to accelerate your resource generation, allowing you to play your expensive and high impact cards faster than you normally would be able to. In this case, the target is clear, Atom Smasher, who has a tremendous 9 eddy cost. We all knew ramp in Yellow was inevitable because of Smasher, and in fact, it was one of the few things I said he needed to be good in an old video of mine. That, plus having the game system change to allow you to make plays after attacking, which is another change that was made recently that allowed him to become more viable. But, is using this card really worth it? Let's take a deep dive in and find out. Bootleg Black Sapphire Show is a big tongue twister for me, and is also a 5 cost Yellow Braindance program with a 4 yellow RAM requirement, so we're dipping heavily into Yellow, and if you're trying to get out Smasher, you're fully committed into Yellow, so there's no surprise there. This card's ability allows you to sell the top card of your deck. You then get the secondary ability that lets you draw 2 cards if you control a gig with an even value and a gig with an odd value. Now, to immediately help clear up confusion, as many Cyberpunk TCG players ask the question, if the top card of my deck is a unit, is it still sold? The answer is yes. Here's a snippet straight from their rules, explaining that oftentimes cards will have abilities that break the rules of the game, and that's part of the whole fun of the cards and their effects. This card immediately sells the top part of your deck, regardless of what it is, so it has the slight risk factor of selling something you really needed, but you get an additional resource over your rival, and in a game where there's a fixed number of turns, getting an edge like that is incredibly powerful. So ramp is good for us. Is this card good enough based on that alone? It seems rather expensive, no? Well, it is true that 5 eddies is a lot to spend, but when you play it, you immediately get an eddy refunded back to you essentially, since you're gaining 1 ready resource at that moment it's played. So while you need 5 to play it for the first time, you'll only be spending 4 on the ability to gain 1 resource. I mentioned earlier that we can surmise that the eddy cost of drawing 1 card is 1 eddy, So if we take that into account, we're essentially spending 4 eddies to draw 2 cards and get ahead of our rival by 1 resource for the rest of the game. Now if we subtract the 2 eddy value of drawing 2 cards, that leaves us with 2 eddies spent to gain 1 resource over our rival, which is quite a bargain, and leads me to say that this card is powerful and very efficient. The downside with ramp cards, of course, is that the longer the game goes on, the less useful their effects become, as by the end of the game, you won't be able to spend the resources to play this, as you'll be playing cards that can deal with your rival's board state and answer any problems that they're putting in your way. Despite this drawback of ramp cards, the beauty and the design of this game as a whole is that because this card can be sold for eddies, if you are in a stage of the game where you cannot take advantage of this ability, or simply don't need to, you can just sell it for eddies during your turn and get use out of it that way. That's one of my most favorite traits about this game in general, is that you'll rarely have a completely dead card in your hand because 2/3 of the card types in the game can be converted into resources, and who knows, maybe one day we'll have sellable units. It's not out of the realm of possibility, and if it happens, you heard it here first. In any case, this card is quite powerful, and you'll be seeing it in any deck running double yellow, as the advantages it gives you are tremendous. Well everyone, that's all I wanted to share in this video. I hope you found it informative or entertaining. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back with a new video sooner than you might be expecting to talk about some of the other discoveries I found while perusing the site. I will see you all then. Thanks for watching.